Hi, I'm Joanna from Wolf and Clay, and today I show you how I center a piece of clay. So first, what I do is I take the clay and I place it as center as I can onto the wheel. Then I pat it down a little bit, and then for the beginners, I try to smack the clay into more of a dome shape, into a shape of a dome. So now you can see I got a bit off center. So now I'm just going to nudge it a bit more into center again. And I keep slapping it into more center. Then I seal the edges so that once I add the water to the clay, the water doesn't go underneath it and the clay doesn't just slide right off. So now is the first time that I start adding water to the clay. I either use a sponge or just with the hand, whichever works best. I don't know what I usually do, both probably. So now what I want to do is I rest my left elbow in my leg and my right elbow also in my leg. And now I am going to cone the clay. So I'm coning it up, meaning I'm compressing the clay from the bottom, and as the clay moves, I move my hand up, and that will push the clay upwards. So I'm compressing the clay from the left and the right, and I'm gonna make a top view in a second. And that way it created already the cone shape-ish. So I start on the bottom, and as the clay moves up, I move up with my hands, and the clay rises. So there you go. So now as the clay has now risen up, it's called coning the clay up, coning up. Now we want to cone down. I'm going to add some more water as I go. So I always want to make sure there's enough moisture on the clay. As soon as the clay starts sticking to my hands, it's too little amount of water. So I always want to make sure there's enough water on the clay so it glides easy and smooth between the hands. So now to cone it down, what I want to do is I push the clay forward and downward. And as that happens, the clay finds its way into its new position as it comes down. And I'm ending up in a dome kind of shape that I want to have. Now, if I don't do it correctly, I'm going to cone up again just to show you. If I only push the clay downwards like so, what happens, it's going to get really wobbly. It becomes sort of a mushroom head, and that doesn't lead me anywhere. So I have to correct that now just by compressing the clay evenly. So now again, when I cone down, I want to push the clay forward, downward, because as I push forward, downward, clay just finds its way back into the dome where I want it to be. And I do the coning up and down as many times as I need it. So if I feel any inconsistencies like air bubbles in the clay, I just keep going until all the air bubbles have been removed. So that's basically the point of coning, is to remove any inconsistencies in the clay. And it also, if I do it good enough, it centers me the clay where I want it to be. So that's why coning is very essential to centering, because when you do the coning right, it centers you the clay. There you go. And now it is centered. Now if your clay, and that usually in the beginning, the clay often ends up not being centered, because in the beginning we have to find the right pressure and the right pace. We use our hands with the wheel. It often ends up not being centered in a way of that you did the coning correct, but somehow the clay still wobbles around. And if that happens, just make sure your arms are really anchored in your elbows now. And what you want to do is you want to use your left arm, or what I do, I use my left arm to push through the clay. So basically push forward, and the right hand pushes down. So I'm going to make the wobble even more extreme now to demonstrate that. So left hand pushes through the clay. So basically just a forward motion as my arm comes from here through here, and the right hand is just going to hold the clay down, because if I only push forward, the clay will rise up like as if I would be coning, and I don't really want to do that, right? So I want to get it clay into center now. So now always add a little bit of water, as you can see. Now the left hand pushes the clay forward, and to avoid, see how the clay is coming up, to avoid the clay coming back up again, because all I want to do is put it in center, I just gently use the same pressure that comes from forward to downward. So again, I just anchor my elbow in my left leg. So I'm really using my leg as a stabilizer here. The left hand is now pushing the clay forward, really abrupt, and hold it in place. And then the right hand pushes the clay downward into the dome shape. As you can see, my hand, when I do that, I do it with flat, yes, but then I come over the edge just so I have then a nice dome as a starting point when I then want to go in whichever shape I want. So that was how I cone the clay, and I hope you liked it. And next time I will show you the next step.